Last class, we review how can we know if two fractions are equivalent, and we use the bottoms up method, which you will use today too. There is one problem in your worksheet that is asking you, it's a word problem, it's number 14, and it's asking you to compare two fractions and decide if they are equal, if they are equivalent. So let's review that quickly first. When you do bottoms up, you have two fractions. You want to know if they are equal or not. So we cross multiply. 4 times 1 is 4. And then we cross multiply the other side. 2 times 2 is 4. These two fractions are equivalent. Today we are focusing on finding an equivalent fraction instead of figuring out if those two fractions are equivalent. We are going to make equivalent fractions. So how can we make equivalent fractions? A word problem in your worksheet says that Kenny ran 3/4 of a mile. Now, he wants to know how much is that in 1/8 of a mile. Over here, he divided a mile in 4, and he ran 3 parts of those. But over here, if he had divided a mile in 8, how many parts did he run? So we need to make an equivalent fraction. So something that you notice here is that the denominator, remember, equivalent fractions have different numerators and denominators, but they are equal. Equivalent means equal. They have the same value. So from 4 to 8, what happened there? It was multiplied 2 times, right? 4 times 2. They multiply 2 times, or 4 plus 4. 2 times 4 gave you the 8. So something that we are going to learn today is that to make equivalent fractions, we had to multiply by the same factor, both numerator and denominator. So if the denominator was multiplied by 2, let's multiply the 3 times 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. An equivalent fraction for the amount that Kenny ran, 3/4 of a mile, is the same as 6/8. So whenever you want to make an equivalent fraction, just multiply both numerator and denominator by the same factor. I have a fraction here, 4/2. If I multiply this by 2, numerator and denominator, I will get 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. 4.5 is equivalent to 8/4. I could also have multiplied the 4.5 times 3. Button, numerator and denominator. 4 times 3 is 12, and 2 times 3 is 6. This is also an equivalent fraction. 4.5, 8/4, and 12/6 are equivalent. I could have multiplied by 4, numerator, by 5, by 6. Doesn't matter which number you are using. As long as you multiply by the same factor, both numerator and denominator, you can make a new equivalent fraction. So in your next problems, you have to make equivalent fractions. I put your problem number 5 over here. They give you the fraction 5/8. So let's make the easiest one is to multiply by 2. To me, anyhow. If I multiply both by 2, then I can say 5 times 2 is 10, and 8 times 2 is 16. So 10/16 is equivalent to 5/8. There is a reminder in your worksheet to not use factors greater than 5, just to make it more simple and easier for you. So when you use the number that you are going to multiply by a low number, but it's up to you. So let me see. Problem number 13. They ask you to draw 2 congruent figures of the same size and the same shape to prove that 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. So let me try to draw 3/4. I'm going to make, I guess a square is fine. And I'm going to divide it in 4, right? The denominator tells me how many parts the whole has been divided. And then 3, it means that 3 will be taken. So let me take 3 of these. 1, 2, and 3. Now I need to draw 2 figures of the same size and same shape. I will try to make another square. Same size, same shape. And now I need to draw this other fraction, 6/8. So I need to divide my square into 8 parts. Let me see how I can do that. If I divide 4, I need another 4. Since fraction needs to be divided into equal parts. Okay, I have 8 parts there. And let me shade 6 of those. Okay, here I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Are they equivalent? They are. The only part that is not shaded is this 4th, which is equal to these 2 parts here. See? So we draw 2 shapes, 2 figures of the same size and the same shape, and we prove that 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. I try to make a fraction strip here because you have one in your worksheet. Plus, it helps us see equivalent fractions. Maybe easier. Let me see here. So in your problem number 6. Now let's see at the fraction strip. This is one whole. The whole can be divided in 2 and we have half, right? Or we can divide it in 3 and we have thirds. It can be divided in 4 and we have fourths. It can be divided in 5, etc. The same whole, different fractions. So for problem number 6, you had to find the missing numerator or denominator. Number 6 is missing the top, meaning the numerator is missing here. And number 9 is missing the bottom, the denominator. So let's do those examples. What is the fraction that is equivalent to 2/4? Let's find 2/4 here. Since I know that whole has been divided in 4, I need to go to the 4th strip and grab 2 of those. Okay? It means that this whole section, this is what we are talking, 2/4. And what other fraction is the same as 2/4? Over here, I could say 2/4 is the same as, if you see this line, it's the same as this other. I could grab the 6, but for the 6, I will need 1, 2, 3 of the 6. Oh, yes, and I need to grab the 6 because it says 2/4, what is equivalent in 6? So I go to the 6 and see how many 6 do I need in order to fill the same space as 2/4. And I need 1, 2, 3, 6 to fill the same space, to mean the same amount, the same value. So the missing number here is the number 3. 2/4 is the same as 3/6. Let's see number 9. See if I have a different color. 1/2. Okay, I need to go to the halves and grab 1 of those, which will be this one. Grab 1/2, and I need to find now, I don't know how many parts is divided, but I know it requires 4 parts. Which one of these requires 4 parts to fill the same space as 1/2? Over here, it's not the same. I need to go to one that is the same. Oh, 1/4 is the same, but it's only 2 parts. I need 4 parts. So over here, no, 1/6 is the same amount, but I need only 3. I need 4 parts. How about 8? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 8 does it. 8 goes to the to the same line, half of the whole, and I need 4 of these parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the denominator, I had to divide my whole in 8 in order to grab 4 and be an equivalent fraction to 1/2. So that's how you will do your worksheet. You find the space that is shaded or that is taken by the numerator. Look at the denominators to see how many parts is being divided the whole into and which other fraction is equivalent. And you find the numerator or denominator that is missing. Now, another question. Using the same strip, what is an equivalent fraction of 4/4? Now, this problem is not on your worksheet, but it will help you do your worksheet. You are going to do something similar in number 16. Similar, not the same. So a fraction that is equivalent to 4/4. 4/4 tell me that I have divided the whole in 4th and I have taken 4th. So I have taken the 4 spaces. And what other fraction is equivalent? What other of this could be equivalent to that? See, I have taken the whole 1/2. So an equivalent fraction will be any one that finish over here. It could be this. If I take all of this, and equivalent, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th. So 5 out of 5 is equivalent, or the 6 over 6 is equivalent, or 8 over 8 is equivalent. As you see, if you take all the whole, it will be an equivalent fraction because this fraction is telling me to take the whole. Even the number 1 is equivalent, or 2 2s, or 3 3s, or 10 10s, or 12 12s. All of those are equivalent to 4/4. 4/4, if you notice, tells me that I'm taking the whole. I'm taking all the parts. I divided into 4 and I took all the 4 parts. So that 1/2, any one of those fractions is equivalent. Now, an example for number 17, which is not in your worksheet, it's just an example. Let's see what is not equivalent to 2 6. Not equivalent and out of colors to 2 6. So let me use black. 6, the whole has been divided into 6 and I am taking 2 of those. 1 and 2. Which fraction is not equivalent? So how about if I take 2/5? Is 2/5 equivalent? It is not, because 2/5 takes more space than 1/6. So anyone that doesn't add up to the same amount, you could say 3/8 is not equivalent, or even 2/8 is not equivalent, right? Or you can say 2/4 is not equivalent, or 3/5 is not equivalent. Anyone that doesn't amount the same will be not equivalent. The only ones that are equivalent to 2 6 is the ones that go on the same line, which will be 1/3 is equivalent. And let's see if we have over here. This is equivalent to, we are on the same line, right? 1 2, yeah. So 4/12 is also equivalent. All the other fractions don't add the same amount. I hope that helps. If you have questions, let me know. And I hope you have fun working with your fraction strips and with the rest of your worksheet. One more thing. Number 90 tells you to write a fraction with forms of tens. So what you do here, if the addition that you have there adds to 10, you will check that. If the multiplication that you do, the product is 10, that's one that counts. If the division divide the product is 10, that counts as 1. And then you count how many forms of 10 you got in that set. And that will be your numerator, how many 10s you got. The denominator is how many problems you have. Have a good day.